there, and welcome back to Scrap with Penny. This is an installment in the August Stashbusting Saturday series that I launched. You may have heard me mention that in July I finished my scrap room guest design work, and I was a little at 6s and 7s on what direction to head. I posted on my Instagram and Facebook accounts asking for input on what people wanted to see, and Jill Stewart shared that she would like for me to use my oldest and most favorite collection in a stash bust. And so I've got a double throwback here. My photos are from 30 years, and this is 97. This is our anniversary. And I'm going to tell y'all, when I went farming for photos, I went from March to November of this year, and this is the only photo I could find of the two of us. And what was interesting was, like, in the month of July, I only had like 39 photos. I mean, has a phone camera changed our world or what? And you know, people give you a hard time about selfies, but I'll tell you what, it changes your record keeping because your stories are captured. I don't know if you just heard the dog running. So anyway, I found this very humorous, but this is my husband and I on our anniversary, our 10th anniversary, and Philip is 3 and Andrew is 2. And then here we are, July 4th, 2007, and we're all 10 years older. This is our home in Murphy, where we lived and where the boys went to school. We sold that home in 2015. And then this is our empty nest phase. So this is July 4th, 2017. Both of the boys were involved in those, you know, college summer activities, either working or interning or living, you know, in the college city. And so it was just my husband and I. And I can't remember if this was the first year we went for our anniversary. I think 2015 was the first year we went for our anniversary. Oh, I do want to tell you this. These streets were crowded, but there is a Facebook group called Disney Photoshop Request, and you can submit one photo a day and they'll edit it for you. And so I asked for the people to be removed. I also asked them to change my shorts to a khaki, but oh well, I mean, we're going with this. This is, so it's not like this was an empty park, but they cleaned up the photo for me, and I just always tell them I'm a scrapbooker so they know that I'm going to actually use the photo, because I am. And so these are my pictures, and I picked these pictures, I picked this story because this is my most favorite collection. I shared that I fell back in love with scrapbooking after going to a convention in the summer of 2006, and through that convention I found a scrapbook store called Recollections. It was a boutique brand of Michaels. There were maybe like 12 or 15 around the country in their heyday, and I actually worked at that scrapbook store for a year. It was my trial run to see how the boys would do if they were left alone. The house didn't burn down, and so in 2007 I went back to the corporate world. But what's funny is the B-sides are so plain. It's a tone on tone. I'm not going to flip through all of this, but so here's the deal. This is dated 2007, which, you know, is when I really was back in the groove of it all. And I used it for an art project for my scrapbook room at my house in Murphy. And I'll pop in a picture of that. And then I think I also used it for a July 4th banner, home decor. But my husband, he doesn't care for that home decor look. And so I think when we moved here and we downsized by 1,300 square feet, that our home decor project, it was a banner for our fireplace, and our home now doesn't have a fireplace because you don't really need one, and even in North Texas you don't need one. Okay, so these are the papers I've selected to kind of work with, and I think the only paper I have, well, I'm not picking this one And look at the back of that. It's this weird, this pistachio green, and then this paisley. And so my art project for my studio was a 12 by 12 canvas, and I just took 6 pieces of paper and I matted them on the canvas. And so I looked at this every day for 8 years. And then when we sold the house, I took these canvases to my work and I looked at them there until 2020. So it's funny because I used this collection, but look at all these weird offcuts, but not ever yet for a layout. So Jill, thanks for this suggestion. It was fun to really ponder what collection I would pick. And then I'll show you, these are the die cuts. So, you know, my mind's eye would come out with all those weird and different collections. They would have different names and like, I'm not even going down. I never could understand their naming structure. But they sold all of those odd bits and bobs that were loose pieces, and like you'd pay 35 cents for this. And when I worked in the scrapbook store, we had the hardest time organizing all of this stuff and keeping it picked up. So I have this, this, all of this are part, this is not part of it. I just sort my die cuts by color. And so I'm going to try and use some of these, because you know what I say, if I don't use it now, when will it? And so for my inspiration, I was looking at some pictures of my earlier, I don't think I had this one marked to use. I was looking at some pictures of my earlier scrapbook layouts, searching for something, and I saw a layout that I loved, and I had already decided I was going to work with this paper, and it was going to be an anniversary story. And not necessarily a Disney story, because we're actually at some friend's house in Kansas City here, and then we're at home here, and then we're in Florida. So anyway, I found this layout. I'll pop it in the screen now, that I thought, you know what, that would be a perfect sample, a perfect sketch, a perfect launching point for my story. And you'll see in the picture that I use a Martha Stewart punch around the page. And I was thinking about how the older collections had those shaped pieces of paper, and it made me think about this old Bazzill. And so this is their dotted Swiss line. And so this is, I got this out, and then I have this one in navy and this one in red. And so I'm thinking that this can be the background. I am kind of struggling with how foo-foo it looks, but you know what? I mean, I'm using paper from 2007, so we're going back 18 years. We can do whatever we want, right? So this is the impetus for my project, and I'm going to use 4 pieces of paper that are 2 inches wide, and that'll be 8 inches across. Oh, I might want to go a little wider. I'll have to think about how hard it would be to divide 9 by 4. So I'll think on that. But the point is, I'm going to do vertical strips here, and then I want to use the stripe. My inspiration layout doesn't have this, but I want to use a little bit of the stripe across the bottom. And so that's where we're headed. So I need to decide how much to cut these, how wide, and then we can really get going on this. I'm going to pause the recording to trim my photos, and also, oh, I didn't talk about the photo size, 3 by 5 and 2.5 inch squared. The other thing is, I did this markup, which you can do in Apple Photos, and you just can edit and type anything on there. So I just put the year 7/4/2017. I put it on these also. I always forget that when you scale your picture down, it scales the font down. So I'm either going to be okay with this because the boys will have context clues for the date, or I'm going to, be OCD and reprint them, and probably the latter. Okay, let me get going. So here's where I am. I'm really bad when I do stuff like this, on the fly, about remembering my interior margins. And so I was thinking I could do, 2.5 because that's 10, but then I wouldn't have as much space inside. So I went with 2.25, and I think that looks great. And so to figure out how much I need to cut off the side, this one is just under an inch. And this one is just over, it's just short of 7/8. And so I think if I cut 7/8 off each side, then I can make it fit with my interior margin. And I like this amount on the edge. So 7/8 times 2 is 14/8. And I always think my, junior high math teacher, Mrs. Quigley, would be so proud of all of my work with fractions. So 14/8 measures out to be 1 3/4. And if you're not great with math or you don't like math, then get this little ruler out and go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. So that's 14/8, because each one of these little squares represents a 1/8 measurement. That might be easier for you to see. So, so I'm going to trim the length, and this doesn't mean I've decided on this blue. I just was testing it out. I put the two larger scale patterns in the middle. They'll be that's where they are now. I mean, it's either going to go like this or it's all going to flip. So let me trim the ends of these. So they are trimmed up at just a little bit longer than 9.5 inches. And I was thinking about the decorative edge Bazzill, and I remembered that I had a white scallop in my stash. And so I went and grabbed that, and my margins around the edges are going to be a total of 2.5, so 1.25 on each side. So real quickly, this is the navy, and then I can show you what it looks like on the red. I feel like the red ends up looking too juvenile, and it doesn't really match the red paper as much. So this is not really ideal. But I do like the pop against the white. So then it becomes the idea of going with a dark blue cardstock that's the same shade as the dotted Swiss, and then I think it's Admiral, and I've got a good supply of that, and I can put the white scallop on this, and immediately I like how it looks. I like the pop, I like the crisp feel, and so let's get the paper on there, and it's looking good. Now, I've talked about which order the papers go in, and I've got the larger scale in the center because I want to call attention to it. But if you think about where my photos are going to be, I may need to flip the papers. And I did reprint my photos with the larger markup font size. The 4x6 is a 60. And so the, the 4x6 is a 40. And so on the 2.5 square, I increased the 40 to a 60. And you can see it now, and it looks a little better. I'll just, tear up and toss the duplicate print. It's not super expensive to print at home, and when you consider about 60 cents for two pictures, that's not a terrible waste. I do use the premium glossy paper because I like the thicker texture to it, but even at that price, at that burn rate, I'm good making a misstep on pictures every now and then. I do feel like if I'm going to go to the effort to make a page, I do want a nice picture, a nice quality picture. So I have a little test stripe cut, and this is just a little offcut I had. I'm going to think about how thick I want that stripe, and I'm thinking my pictures will go like this, and I think that this is looking good foundationally. But one thing I am noticing is that my larger print is mostly covered up by the photos, and you don't get to see a lot of that pattern. So if I flip the larger patterns to the outside, then you'll be able to see them better, and the smaller scale prints will look better underneath the photos. So let me swap those real quick. I'm not sure if I want to go blue, red, or red, blue. And I mean, I don't think you ever really know that until you're in the moment, looking at it. At least that is always the case with me. So after a lot of paper shuffling, I'm going to go with the large circle on the far left, the small blue, the small red, and then the large blue on the right. And this will allow my papers to really show up. And I am going to do a thicker stripe, probably maybe almost 2 inches on the stripe. And so now we are ready to take the white scallop to our blue cardstock background, and we can start taping some of the paper down. So if I've measured correctly, and I think I have, this white scallop is 11.5, so that would give me a 1/4 inch on each side. So I went to my little 1/4 inch acrylic corner. I thought maybe I should say that I leave the backer paper on mine. I don't think you can really tell that it's actually clear acrylic, but I just find they show up better. And the other thing I wondered is, do you have any of this My Mind's Eye confetti in your stash? Did you have a scrapbook store that you loved in 2007? You know, Michael's closed Recollections, I think in January of 2008, because I had left them and gone back to the corporate world. So I'm just going to hold this firmly in place and come right in. And there it is. Precise. And I decided obviously not to gut this navy. I do have a lot of it. And at the rate I'm using it, I might have what's considered a lifetime supply. I got my acrylic corners on Etsy, and I do always share a link to them because I think I started using them for making cards, and then I was like, hold on, I think I can use them for scrapbooking. We had them on here in this order. And I've been thinking about the strategy here, because I have to find this center this way and this way. I did space all these out, and I know that it's 9.5 wide. And so if my scallop is 11.5, then that means I'll have a 1 inch margin on each side. So that helps. Sometimes you just have to logic this stuff out. And my interior margin, I took it at 3/16. So I'm going to take this little acrylic corner and I'm going to spread it in the gap between the center line. So one thing I have learned for sure since starting my channel and kind of thinking about my layouts a little more is that I don't like it when I don't have stuff that goes with it. I don't like having to make this stuff. I got out my Hero Arts Infinity Circle die and cut this, and it was a tight fit. I went you know, as large as I can go. I wanted the circle so it would break up the boxiness of the other elements, and I think it's cute. And I pulled all of my stars, and I've got them on this sheet to cut with my, the star dies that I have are Paper Smooches and Pink Fresh. I'm going to cut these down and see what it looks like. And the other thing I realized is that all of these papers have really nice solid colors on the other side. And if I cut them with a die, it should mask the white core, which I'm pretty sure is in there. So let me go cut some stars now. So I have been a busy little beaver, and I did get my journaling typed up. I opted to go with a block, and I'm not sure on the placement if I'll slide it this way or this. I mean, it's so hard when nothing is taped down to kind of figure things out. But I did cut some stars, and I did end up flipping over the pattern pieces of paper. So I just used the solid contrasting color on the back. I think I've got a good handle on the stars. I know from my experience, when I go to tape them down, I'll tighten them up and they'll look better. And I know right now it kind of looks like, it looks rough to me. Oh, and I realized I needed to bring in some white, and I think the white really helps them pop. So I've got more over here that I can use. I found this together right here on this game night sheet. And let me tell you how I did that. That's one pretty cool thing about Evernote is I went into my sticker sheet notebook in Evernote and I typed in the word together in quotes, and it proceeded to show me every sticker sheet that I have that says together because it can read it. So then I was looking for the right color. And then I found this happy life from Little Things. The reason why I think it matters is like these older collections, you need the little things to go with them. And I've just kind of been amazed at looking back in 2007. And in my mind, I can see all of the old layouts in the magazines, you know, that we had back then. And they were more simple because the collections hadn't metamorphosed to what they have today. And I am thankful for that. So I think it's going to come down to getting busy taping some things down. And the other thing I'm considering, and I'll probably do it, is matting these photos on white. I think what I'm really finding pleasing to my eye on this is the repetition of the white. And I can't see bringing in another color. Oh, and I did pull this. This is Ellie Studio. And I'm wondering about this, you know, up here, working with that or working somewhere. So it's coming along. I'm still toying with stitching. I was thinking about a double line, but if I did a double line here, I think that would look kind of crazy. So it may be something as simple as just a stitch here and a stitch here. I definitely think this is an instance where this layout is going to need some help on some texture and a little pop. I'm going to keep plugging along. But 3 cheers for stash busting, right? I have to say, it does always look so different. And I think that with the exception of stitching, and I do have a plan for that. It came to me while I was sorting out all of these stars. The Paper Smooches die is so fun because it cuts these little outlines as part. It cuts a solid star, but you get a star, an outline, a star. I guess you get one. So you get 4 cuts out of 1. I mean, I don't have any idea how long I've had that die, but you can see here's an outline right here in red, and here's one in the navy, and then here's the thicker white outline down here, and I think that really makes a big difference. It really helps that pop. And then here's the thin white outline. So I cut Oh, here's one that's still partway together. So here I've separated the little interior star and then the outline of this color. Oh, it's right here. Oh, I can reconstruct it. So that's what you get. And it's a great little die. So I took that through 4 times in each color, the red, the navy, the lighter blue, and the white. And I just kind of kept fiddling with the configuration until I liked it. So I did get that LE Studio chipboard piece down, and I also picked a piece of chipboard here, and I think it really kind of finished this area off. I ended up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stars over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if I stacked it up, you know, and put something in the middle, I still counted it as 1 star. I also matted my photos in a very thin white margin, and it gives it to me a clean look, and it gives them a little pop. I think especially since there are 3 different color backgrounds and profiles, putting them on the little sliver of white gave some continuity and some consistency. And then also you get that nice white repetition in the middle, which I could tell as soon as I brought the white out that it was going to be helpful. I still can't quit thinking about how minimalistic these early kits were. And this actually was sold in a kit. I found the image online. I'll pop it into the video at the end since this is stash busting. But what was cute was that these little, you know, stars were sold in it, and I think maybe this. And the end of the journaling says, the setting may change, the celebrations may look different, but the heart of it stays the same, you and me. And I think, you know, that is for sure true. And I love that we got married on July 4th because it's a festive time, and I always say the whole United States is celebrating with us. So that part is fun. I'm going to stop rambling and get my pencil line drawn with my Omni Grid. I'm going to go white on white. The reason is because when you're stitching on a solid piece of cardstock, every little mispoke or misstitch, you know, it's like it's magnified. And so if you can go tone on tone, it'll help. And then I'm going to choose a thicker thread that is only 1 thread. So you're not going to have, you know, and usually on DMC thread, you get a little twist or turn of the thread because I stitch with 3 pieces of the 6. And I don't want that. I want this to be as tidy and tight as I can get it. So I am pleased with this. I think it does honor the style of the 2007 minimalism, and at the same time I feel like I kind of brought it into today's stylistic designs in that it's clean and there's embellishments. Let's not forget. So let me get to stitching, and then I'll be back with a finished layout. Sometimes there's just something really gratifying about finishing up some stitching. But before I go over that, I wanted to show you that this is the die cut that came in the kit. And you can see where I added the red outline and the blue outline. And I just got so lucky that they fit. I thought it made a great difference to put the other layers on here. And I was thinking it's kind of symbolic of the difference between 2007 and today. Because, I mean, this, I don't know, I'm not going to say plain, but yeah. I don't think there's much else I need to say. I will try and come up close on the stitching. This is what a spool of Aunt Lydia's classic tin looks like. And, I mean, you get so much for like $6. I shared before that I got this at Joann before it went out, but Amazon has it, and I think Walmart carries it in store, and I think Michael's also carries it. So Fine 20 is the thinner one that I use to tie onto tags. But if I want to stitch, this is it. This is the money. And like I said, it's because you just get the one stitch. You don't get 3 little skeins of thread. Something about the white DMC to me has always been more inclined to separate. This is a great stash busting exercise. I will say that I think my mind's eye had some of the prettiest papers, and I'm glad that I chose to keep the paper, you know, forward in the design, because that's why I love this. I've always loved Patriotic collections, but I've shared before that because of our anniversary, I love Patriotic collections that are not wagons and red trucks and fireworks. Those are great for the holiday itself, but if you're trying to do something else in red, white, and blue, these florals and geometrics and circles, I guess, would allow for a little different look. And so one thing I will add about these older collections is that you can carry them with other products in your stash and also with die. So depending on your topic, these stars could become hearts or even circles or hexagons. So don't be afraid when you go look at these older collections if you don't have a lot of accessories with them. And just keep going. When you think it isn't looking good, trust me, just keep going. Thanks again for the suggestion to stash bust with this. And I hope that you have had some scrapbooking fun while I've been doing this. I want to say thank you to my subscribers, and you may have heard in my last few videos that I'm trying to encourage those of you that are not subscribed yet to subscribe. I am getting every day closer to that 1,000 mark, and at that point YouTube gives me the control to turn off the mid-roll ads, and that would be more enjoyable, I think, for everyone. So if you're so inclined, I would appreciate subscribing if you haven't already. It doesn't do anything except put my videos in your recommended funnel. And so maybe that's something you would consider. I would be so grateful. And good collection, good exercise. I love the story that got told. And I'm just so happy to be sharing the content with you. I hope that this is inspiring you to do some stash busting of your own. And as always, thanks for hanging out with me.
Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a thing. I'll be back soon with more layouts, videos, and a little stash busted magic. So please come back and crop with me. Until next time, happy scrapping, and remember, this is where paper meets story. Bye-bye.